Hello, this is Ed Rigsbee, your host of Raw and Unedited for Association Executives, where we bring you tips, tactics, and solutions to help you to run your trade association or professional society better, faster, stronger. You know, many of you have heard me talk about, well, probably ad nauseum, the ROI of membership, that you have to measure the return on investment in actual numbers using qualitative research. And that's very true, and I will probably advocate that to my dying day. One of the things that many of you have asked me, well, Ed, that's awesome, but hey, what do we do with those numbers? Well, I've given you a lot of ideas, but today I think we're really going to hit a home run. I have with me Dwight Holcomb, who is the author of the Lean Cmo. Now, in addition to that, he is the president of HC Development, and he is currently the sitting president, the volunteer leader, the chief elected officer of the National Speakers Association, Los Angeles chapter. And yes, Dwight is my president. So Dwight, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ed. Happy to be here.
Thanks so much. And Dwight, here we go. You've got this book. It's awesome. It's short. It's to the point. It is truly lean, which is a great thing. So many books today, you have to go through hours of material to get the nuggets. I think with this book, you know, most association executives that look through this in about a quick plane flight from LA to San Francisco, they would get some of the key points. Anyway, you talk in your book about being a lean marketer, a lean CMO, and you have 5 foundational habits. And that really kind of hit me. And so do me a favor, Dwight, share with the association executives and the society executives how they can use your ideas to take their ROI numbers and actually get in the marketplace and, number 1, sell more memberships. Number 2, sell more of their services. Number 3, sell more of their events. There you go. You're on, Dwight.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me. And the book is called The Lean CMO, but it's not because I'm lean at all. It's really all about the method, the lean methodology that exists. And so, you know, it's a great method for small organizations, and it's especially a great method for really large organizations. And you know, I've worked for really large organizations, and unfortunately, many of those companies have a really hard time embracing lean methodology. And so it's a process of, you know, even looking outside of your organization if you have to, if you want to hire fractionalized resources or outsourcing or crowdsourcing, it's finding a way to do the stuff of business faster and more efficiently, but with more impact. So for example, if you have a marketing department and you're spending a lot of money and you're looking at hiring another person, maybe one of the better ways to utilize that budget is to hire an offshore asset or a team of virtual assistants and let that be a resource to your existing in-house people, because they're probably overworked, they're probably overburdened, and there's some things that, and in everybody's process, I think you have to look at everything you're doing each day and say, is this something I can give to somebody else? And if it's something you can give to somebody else, then you need to find that somebody else and give it to them and teach them how to do it and let them do their job. And by doing more and more and more of that, we each become, we grow up the ladder of thinking more strategically and spending more time in relationships and developing a bigger picture plan and all of the in the weed stuff. I'll give you a great example. So I love to do video editing. As you see, I'm in my video editing studio. I love editing video. But do you know what one of the worst uses of my time is? Editing video. It's a mindless activity that can be done by somebody who has creative skill and ability. And I can work on the bigger picture of what that video should be. It could be used on a landing page that has a call to action that clearly invites somebody in and, you know, increase the amount of engagement of my audience. You know, it's thinking about what that asset could be as opposed to building that asset. And I think that's one of the most important pieces here, is that people have to start looking at the overall picture and saying, how can I better use budget in a leaner way?
So Dwight, you talk about, I was looking at your 5 foundational habits, and I see you have always learning, always executing, always filtering, maximizing assets, which I think is what you were just talking about, and eliminating the value drains. So walk us through these 5 points and give us a little bit of an idea of how an association executive watching this show can embrace these five habits that you recommend.
Okay, so always learning is something that I learned not too long ago, when I realized I'm not getting enough good inflow of new knowledge. I'm trying to do some of the same things the same old way. And in this day and age with technology and the rapid pace of business, you have to stay on top of what's next, what's new, and be more visionary. So I encourage people and especially in the association role, I think there are some trends that are starting to happen and things that you can do by reaching out into different resources that are available, whether it be an event that you go to yourself of like-minded people trying to advance their position in their career, whether it be reading or even, researching on YouTube, the newest, the latest, the greatest, taking online courses, reading books. I think you have to really dive into the learning process, and it has to be ongoing. It can't be, I did all my training last year and I'm ready to go. I have my degree, I'm ready to go. It doesn't count, doesn't matter. It's what have you done today and what are you preparing for tomorrow? And so I try to go to at least 3 to 4 marketing events per year, because my clients depend on me to be a marketing expert for them. And if I'm doing last year's techniques and strategies and technology for them, I'm not that guy. I've got to stay on top of it so I can keep them forward looking. So that's on the learning and the education part of it.
Executing.
So then on execution, that's also where kind of back to we're talking about, first of all, there has to be an action plan that, put a plan in place and then get it going. And it's kind of that saying of good is the enemy of perfect. And so a lot of people will not get stuff off the ground. And so there's a book called The Lean Startup by a guy named Eric Ries. Great read in terms of thinking through how to get a minimal viable product off the ground. So executing on the strategy, put the strategy in place and execute on it, but not just get it off the ground. That's where then you look to these other resources to make sure, are you trying to do all this work on your own shoulders? Or are you leveraging fractionalized resources, outsourcing, crowdsourcing, to make sure that it's done, for the most bang for the buck? If you can hire somebody for $100,000 a year in LA, or you can hire a team of 20 people for $50,000 a year that can execute, one person can only do what one person can do. But if you're running a team of people, even if they're around the world, you're going to get more results. You're going to get better results. And if it's done right, it can really be a game changer for a business.
What about the filtering? Didn't quite get that one.
Which one?
Number 3, the filtering, always filtering.
I think for filtering, it's, and that's kind of a changing definition for me. And part of it has to do with making sure that I'm filtering out the stuff because there's so much coming at me. I have to be careful about what I'm taking on and making sure that the stuff that is, I have to find what's most relevant for me, and then I have to stay in my lane. So, for example, one example is just even as simple as, I've pretty much quit using Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I post on Facebook. I promote on Facebook, but I don't get engaged in the Facebook feed. I'm not looking at what people are eating for breakfast and what mountain they're hiking, or, that type of stuff. So I'm filtering out the things that are not the right fit and the right activities. And I'm making sure that I'm staying focused on the best use of my time, the most strategic, revenue generating activities that I possibly can.
Now, Dwight, and when I'm looking here at your number 4, maximizing assets, I got thinking, there's a challenge that a lot of trade association executives have in that their staff get unfortunately sometimes bombarded by volunteer leaders wanting stuff to be done that sometimes I wonder if it's really important. And it might be better if the volunteer staff just said, sorry, we don't do that. But in talking about always maximizing your assets, you got me thinking about, how does an association executive work with their marketing department to keep from allowing their membership to drain their assets?
In my dealing with alumni, the alumni network I belong to for UCLA Anderson, this is something that we dealt with as volunteers, where we saw that we were overwhelming and overburdening the full-time staff that were running our alumni association department. So in that process, we have a turnover that happens every couple of years, and the new people come in and they have all their great ideas. But the problem for the staff is they get overburdened with all of these new ideas that have already been kind of addressed in the previous administration. So one of the things that we worked on was helping to try to put a better alignment. So when the new people came in, they kind of went over some of what the strategic objectives were, and just make sure people were aligned better coming into the position as a volunteer, so that they can still share their new ideas, but they also have kind of an outlet for that. So we call it build it and they'll come kind of a process. So people know if they have a great idea, first here's the strategic alignment that everybody wants to be on board with. And that stays from year to year, volunteer rollover to volunteer rollover. And when the new volunteers come in, they're given that path. They know clearly, here's what we want to help align with. And at the same time, they have an outlet so if they have some passion project they want to work on, they could do it. They're kind of on their own until the thing gets legs enough. And then if it has merit, then the staff comes in, the full-time staff comes in, and they'll actually support it because they see something of value there. So it's kind of trying to make the best of both happen in terms of volunteers versus, getting off track with a bunch of ideas that may kind of sink them.
So it sounds like what you're suggesting is it kind of comes down to the association chief staff executive to do a little bit better job of orientation for board members and committee chairs and so forth, as far as, give them a little bit of a roadmap of what we've done, what we've tried, what didn't work, so we don't go there again.
Yeah, just making sure they educate them and let them know, and just be clear with them that, we have a real specific purpose and we're asking that you align with that and get their buy-in. I think that's really important. And I think people are okay with that. And if they're not given that direction, I think that's when they're, and they can start veering off and go in a different direction. And all it needs is just give them that direction.
So as president of NSA GLAC, how's that working for you?
Yeah, I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid, I guess. So, I believe this is what I've been trying to do in terms of, actually first, I think the most important thing in this role has been, it's not about me. It's not about my ideas. It's more about, and then I found the same thing at my alumni network, by the way. As the president of that network, I learned very quickly that there very little existed that didn't exist before. And there weren't many situations that I faced that hadn't been dealt with by a previous president. And I think in the same role here, and you and I have had a lot of these discussions, and a lot of our senior members, there's not much new that I'm seeing or doing today that hasn't already been done or thought. There's no new idea that I'm coming up with. So I have found, especially if you can help your volunteers understand this, it's really critical for their success. If they can understand that it's already all been done, and to tap into the knowledge that already exists from your longstanding members, from people that have been in your same position, and not try to just feel like I've got to go out and prove myself. Sometimes that's the worst thing you can do. When I was a young consultant, I went into a company and I just started changing everything. I was fresh out of business school, and I thought I knew everything, and I was just changing everything. And I really upset a lot of people. And what I learned is some of the best knowledge comes from just sitting back and asking and interviewing and learning. And when you do that, and you start listening to all these different, those ideas are already there. And what the other great thing is, then you get buy-in because people share those ideas with you, and now they want to help you execute that idea. And you're not just on your own. And I think for associations, if they can help their volunteers to understand that and get them involved in that process of learning to tap into the existing, it can really help them catapult their success to another level.
So I took you a little bit off track from your 5 habits. I just decided to throw you a curveball there.
That's good.
The 5th one, you say always eliminate the value drains. And boy, as I'm thinking about that, a lot of trade associations are dealing with not only the value drains in their marketing efforts, but they've got huge issues with the value drains in their programming and in their services and in their benefits. And a lot of associations have a hard time sunsetting things. So with that in mind, having a hard time sunsetting programs that are value drains, tell me more about what you mean in the marketing value drains.
So in the marketing space, I deal with this a lot, where I'll come into working with a new client and we'll start looking at everything that they're doing. One of my what I say to them often is, I am not a brand awareness marketer. I'm a performance-based marketer because I don't have a Coca-Cola or a McDonald's budget. So we have to make sure that the activities that we're doing have some connection to bringing revenue back in. So it's hard for people to grasp this when they've been in this mindset of, we're just doing our awareness. We've got to have good awareness, and we're marketing and we're putting out advertisements, and they've gotten in a habit of just putting stuff out there. Here's a quick example. So we have a client who, when I first came on board, they had just spent $40,000 on a video, and it was a beautiful video. It was amazing. I mean, they had the best camera work, the best lighting, the best audio. It had great shots of their people telling about their company. But the problem was, it was a video about them. And so that's a huge value drain of resources and time and effort. And they all felt great about it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't doing anything for them. So they might as well just have taken that money and stuck it in a hole. And so in a better effort, what you could do is, take video and make it about the customer. Use the 7-step story arc by Donald Miller. Make sure it's making it about the person, about their problem, about what the results are for them. And here's another example. So instead of just shooting a video, if you have a landing page sequence of, say, 3 landing pages, add 3 videos to those. Have one that they come on board to the page and it tells them what's going on there and what actions to take. They take the first action, and then the second video congratulates them and says, congratulations, you've taken the first step. Here's the next step. Walk them through the process. And on the last page, thank them and congratulate them again. That has proven over and over, you can increase the conversion rates by as much as 60+% by adding those 3 simple little cheap videos to produce onto a page. That's what I'm talking about, about eliminating the value drain. Is there's all these things you can do out there that make you feel good about what you're doing. They look pretty and they feel good, but they're wasting money, and they don't have a clear call to action to bring the activity into a revenue producing result.
Gotcha. So for all of you watching this video, Dwight was talking about Donald Miller's book, The Story Brand. I'll peek over the side here. He and I have had a lot of conversations about that book. I speak very highly, as does Dwight. It's worth taking a look at. Dwight, you not long ago, you shared with me what you had done with a video on spin selling, to where in a short period of time you had like a gazillion views and you were top of CEO. And I'm kind of thinking, a lot of associations, they really should be doing more video, whether it be, more testimonials, so forth and so on. would you walk us through what you've learned as far as, how to get these videos? I guess what I'm thinking about is a little bit less about getting the videos to their members, which they can do via their newsletter, but getting the video to the marketplace and using that to find members that they maybe would have never found. So could you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll share my screen here and I'll just kind of talk you through a couple of quick example, or one specific example. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is 3 simple SEO steps to get a first page ranking. Do you see my screen here with the 3 steps?
Yep, sure do.
So I'm gonna take you through this real quick. So what I did this as a test to start off with. So what I wanted to do was I just wanted to make sure this could work. So I looked up, a lot of people were asking me, how do you do an email merge? It's pretty simple to do with Microsoft, Excel, Word, and Outlook. So I just wanted to do a little quick video and show people. So first I searched what the results out there were and what the titles look like. And I came up with a title that I thought would be very relevant to this search. So I named it How to Create a Mail Merge for Email Using Microsoft Outlook, Word, and Excel 2010. Then I created a thumbnail that said this really clearly, what people, the result, how to mail merge email. That's what people might search. And then I put in a specific transcription. I made sure I did the keywords for this, the tags for this that were relevant. And then the next thing I did was I linked this back in the description to itself. And I'll show you in a minute how to get a quick transcription. But then I also linked it back to, I created a blog page, and I'll show you that in a minute, that links back to that and to my sites, as well as back to the video again itself. And in this, I'm showing a quick video here of how to get the transcription. So YouTube automatically transcribes this whole thing for you. You just go to the little 3 dots at the bottom, you get your transcription, you put it in a notepad, you clean up the timestamps. It actually can do that for you automatically too, I discovered later. But, and then now you have your transcription, you copy and you paste that. Of course, you want to clean it up. So now for the term email merge, and this is actually old data, if you type in email merge, I rank number 2 as of this video, which was at about 30,000 views now. It's now at about 40,000 views. When I did this, it was maybe at 100 views. And so I have become more relevant than almost any other search just by some of these basic steps. I did a video on spin selling. And so I did those steps, but then I also, this is on my site. I created a blog for this, and then I transcribed it, and I cleaned it up a bit and said some more, but I link it back to the YouTube video. I embed the YouTube video here, and in the transcription, I point to this blog page, and this has brought this ranking up into a first page rank. And so this is at several thousand views, and I rank number 1 for tech spin selling, which is my audience I'm trying to serve. So I get people that contact me about this, and I do put in the description how to get in hold of me as well. And I want it to be relevant for, I'm a fractional CMO. So fractional CMO, I have 3 first page rankings for that. There's not a huge amount of traffic for this, but I'm still 3 out of on this page, I'm 3 on that page, which is great. So that's.
Dwight, would you say that associations in general don't use video anywhere near as much as they could or should?
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that associations can do is you can use a free tool like Vidyard, and you can record a quick message. I mean, if you're going to send out an email blast to somebody, stop doing that. I mean, you need to get in front of people, but if you can make it an individual message or a personalized message, if you can just say their first name, take out the whole newsletter styling of it and say, Dear John or Hi John. And then if you can put a Vidyard video, which is again free, and it drops in the thumbnail of the video, and if they're viewing their email on a browser, they see a little animated, like you can write on a whiteboard their name if you're doing it to an individual. Otherwise, you could just do this and it'll show that animation in the email. Your conversion rate goes 40, 50% higher just by putting that video thumbnail in there. And it's a personalized message. So if you're doing it to a large group, you can do an email merge through your email automation that says, Hi, John, and then the video that's kind of tailored to everybody. But now there's a video in there that the click-through rate just goes way up than just a standard email, especially if you compare a newsletter style email with no video in it to a personalized, a regular looking email message type of email with a video thumbnail in it. So that's one thing associations can do right away. Just start using video like that.
Dwight, on average, associations are experiencing about a 25% open rate. What change do you think, if they were to do that, might happen? Would it go from 25% to what percent do you think?
If you're at 25% today and you put and you change from a newsletter, just do it as a test. Make it look just like a regular email message and drop it. Use Vidyard, which is for free, or use Loom is another one. Use loom.com. And you record the video. You say what you want to say. You invite them to something. You share something of value with them. Mm-hmm. You drop, and it gives you a little embed code, and it just drops it right into your email. And you send that email out. If you're getting normally 25%, I would say doing those two things, take it to a standard format and then putting the video thumbnail in there, you'll probably get 50% and up.
Really?
From just those two steps. Yeah.
Really? So, hey, Dwight, I wanted to get into content marketing, but reading in your book that you were kind of the Rudy from the movie Rudy of ASU in wrestling, I was kind of thinking, well, that's kind of fascinating. You know, how did that experience affect who you are today?
I'll tell you what, it's played a big part. It created a lot of desire to compete with me. It created discipline. You know, not being the guy that had to work really hard just to be in the room, harder than anybody else for sure, just to be in the room, versus people that had a lot of skill, who were naturally talented, who also worked really hard. But it taught me that, you know, if you really want something and you put the energy and the time and devotion into it, you can get it. But you really have to dedicate yourself to it. You have to become focused. And I talked in the book, you know, I had to learn to start teaching those things that I didn't know well. And same with marketing. When I teach people marketing, that's why I try to present as much as I can. I'm a guest lecturer at UCLA Anderson, and I try to give as much instruction about marketing as I can, in addition to learning, because I learned some of the best lessons by teaching, because a lot of times people ask questions and taking a path you hadn't thought of. So that really played a big part in having to work really hard, be focused, but then have to start training high school kids as kind of a side thing, which made me a better wrestler. That taught me some great lessons about how to be a better marketer.
Gotcha. That's fascinating. Thank you for that. I thought it was very interesting in the book that, you know, and I relate to that. I've always believed, and you've heard me say it, it's all about persistence, and I believe that, well, passion is good, persistence is better. And, you know, sure, you got to be passionate about something, but, you know, there was a lot of people several years ago that watched the video, The Secret, and they were passionate about changing their lives, and they had no tools.
Yeah.
And they had no persistence. And I can tell you many stories of people that I know personally that lost their homes and so forth and so on from not having the persistence. So this persistence, let's take this into content marketing, because, you know, you talk about content marketing in your book. The association world in the last few years has been embracing it. I've been a real loud voice about, you know, give them the sample like Starbucks and Costco does, but don't give them the whole meal. Starbucks and Costco doesn't do that. So how can a trade association or professional society be persistent in their content marketing, develop content without giving away, you know, the store in such a way that they draw people to them? You know, how could they do this?
That's a great question. One thing I'll clarify on what we talked about further too is it's not just persistence. I heard somebody say this recently. One of the most important things with the persistence, though, is making sure you have the right compass telling you which direction to go. Because you can go the wrong direction and be as persistent as you want and get nowhere fast. So
good point.
Sure you have the right direction and from the beginning. And that's a great point about that book, The Secret, that, you know, you can have passion all you want, but you don't have the direction of where to go with it. that you being passionate doesn't mean anything. And then on to the, as far as the, not giving away the farm, but, you know, hooking people in. And this is something I've been doing when I work with, when I go present for an association or am part of an event. And I think this is something associations can do more of that's, you know, starting, maybe it's becoming a trend more, that people can only learn what they can learn in the one, you know, if you have an event, a 2-day event, 1-day event, 3-day event, it's a fire hose of information. And what I see a lot of happening is people get done with that and they're inspired and they're excited. Then they go home and they're like, I don't know what to do with all this stuff. And they just they fall down. And I think that what associations can do is start adding more post-event content. So things like a workshop, set up a workshop that immediately follows that. And whether it's your presenters or somebody from the association that helps facilitate that, especially if you can work out a deal with a presenter where they will do that. And I found great success in that. And you can even get revenue share deals with presenters where, you know, they're happy to have the additional revenue and the opportunity to allow them to do some kind of post workshop, and they split the revenue perhaps. But it gives your audience a great chance where they feel like, okay, I learned all this stuff. Now what do I do with it? Oh, okay, there's this workshop and I can go be a part of this and get some real over-the-shoulder look and hands-on training to take some of those first steps of what I learned in that session. And I think that's one great way they could do it. And you can do that through webinars or Zoom sessions, and that part can be done pretty easily and pretty cost effectively. But that's one thing. And then leading up to the event, some of these trainings could be done you know, year round. You know, they can be done as workshops or Zoom sessions and that sort of thing.
So, you know, that's a good point, Dwight. I mean, thinking about what you just said, it seems to me that so many associations, they have their annual meeting, maybe they have a leadership meeting, maybe they have a marketing meeting, and then everybody gets busy. They might put an article or two in their newsletter. Who knows if people read it or not? But you're suggesting be a little bit more strategic and have a little bit more formalized, you know, plan as far as have an event, give knowledge, but then have a follow-through way. And, you know, my guess is probably a lot of associations, that's not their strength. So that would be an awesome idea. In your content marketing, you talked about hunt for the pain. Tell us what you mean. Hunt for the pain.
So the first thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't say the words, what keeps you up at night? It's really cliche. It comes across really, you know, salesy. In fact, you know, Chris Voss actually, I think, pointed that out. I thought that was great that he mentioned that. So showed that video that I did an analysis of. It's called spin selling. And one of the things in spin selling that it's not a technique it's not a gimmick or a trick. What it is to not use tricks like, oh, we're going to use the keyhole close or the whatever close. It's get rid of all that stuff and really get into the conversation and an interview. In an interview process, I really believe that's where the pain comes out. And it doesn't start with asking the pain question. What keeps you up at night, or what makes you, what's bothering you? Or people don't generally open up with that information. It's asking what's going well. How do you do great for your customers? Why do your customers love you? The people love to share that kind of stuff, and it's getting them going in that kind of a process where they're opening up and you're having more of a dialogue, and it's an interview, and you're not sharing what you do. It's just focusing on what you can learn about their situation, and you get down into that path of, you start uncovering stuff, and you get in, and they'll all of a sudden say, well, what we're really struggling with is this. And then you don't let that go, and you just go, it's like a vine. You just start traveling down that vine to learn everything you can about that problem. And as Neil Rackham says in his book, Spin Selling, then he talks about the implication and the need payoff. So the S is the situation, P is the problem, I is the implication. So then you're asking them, what does that problem mean to you in dollars and cents, lost wages, lost time? Get them to communicate that. You're asking them, they're sharing it, so they internalize it. And then the need payoff is, what does it mean if you fix that? And dollars and cents and metrics, and get them to share that, and then they internalize that. And that, to me, if you really go in that process, there you don't need to do any kind of trick closings or anything else, because the next question they're going to ask you is, how do I get started? What are our next steps? And so I think with any organization, when they're in their sales process, is having that dialogue and finding that pain through a process of question and not jumping in with their solution. Keep it really about the customer, about what they're looking for in their process.
You know, Dwight, I've heard it over the years at conferences from many speakers in their presentations. I'll paraphrase: that which gets measured gets managed. And it appears to me in looking through your book, I'll give you another plug, the Lean CMO. It seems like you talk a fair amount in that book about ROI, about measuring, about metrics, about analytics. And, you know, is that something that you don't see enough people doing? Why is it that you're talking about that so much in your book?
I mean, it's not a secret for sure. I mean, people do it, it happens, but I agree with what you said. I don't think people do it enough. And it's probably more to do with habits and, you know, this is how we've done it before, or just lack of time and resources. You know, if you speak with most sales teams, they're just kind of throwing stuff against the wall, hoping things work. They're not doing follow-up the right way. You know, they're not using their CRM system the right way. Marketing campaigns, you know, they're just doing outreach and they don't really have any clear understanding of, you know, they know, well, we got a couple meetings this week. What does that mean? You know, and if you're comparing and split testing the right way, you should be able to look at any campaign and say, you know, maybe we're running two versions of it. And after a few weeks, either one's performing better or, you know, or not. You know, hopefully one's performing better. Hopefully they're both performing well. But if one's performing better, is it performing so much better that you better get rid of this one and double down on this one, or bring in a new test and try it out? And I think that's where, you know, if people aren't doing that, the problem with not doing that is, let's say you're doing that on LinkedIn outreach. You're doing a LinkedIn outreach campaign and you're doing this and everything's working great and you're not doing any kind of analysis and split testing and looking at the metrics. Well, one day, all of a sudden, you don't own the platform, their algorithm changes or they're going to do something differently. And then what do? You know, if you haven't been tracking that all along. And the other thing is, make sure you're doing more than one campaign. If you're doing some sort of marketing effort and you're doing something on Facebook and something on LinkedIn and something on email, you better be doing more than one, because Microsoft just bought LinkedIn and they may change the rules. Facebook, who knows what their rules are going to be tomorrow. And email is kind of the only one you can control for the most part, but you always have these new regulations happening about who you can email, how you can email. Same with telemarketing. You know, you kind of have to have an umbrella of a marketing mix, because you never know what could happen. One could be your golden egg one day, and the rules change on you, and all of a sudden you're out, and that revenue stream's gone. So I think it's just so important to not only analyze within each one what's working, but also to make sure you have several going at once, so you can have a marketing mix, a true profitable mix, and then constant improvements for within that.
Great. So let me ask you this. You know, as a marketing person, as a participant at the Anderson School alumni group, as a volunteer leader at NSA GLAC, you know, what have you found that if somebody said, Dwight, just give me the formula, you know, what would you say to somebody, an association executive out there that says, Dwight, just give me the formula. Tell me what to do. What's the formula? How would you answer that question?
That's a tough question to answer. You know, I guess the formula is that there's no magic formula. There's definitely some specific things that everyone has to be doing. Everyone is different. There's no cookie cutter formula. You know, when we sit down, we service the software industry. And so when I sit down with an executive or an executive team, we'll spend a half day to a full day just talking about interviewing like crazy, going through a lot of different workshops and exercises to get to the end of the day to be able to say, here's the formula. Here's what we should be doing. based on a lot of discovery. So I think at the end of the day, it's, there's a lot that goes into it. And then the execution is, everybody can have a plan and an idea, but if you don't have the right resources to execute on that, then that's also the other issue. So there's a lot of pieces that come together to make a winning formula.
Well,
let's take a reason, obviously, everybody be doing it. So
let's take it down a notch and just go, okay, a lot of association and associations out there in the marketplace. We know there's about 100,000 of them, from the local association to the international association. But just for general discussion, we're in the state of California. There's probably about 400 or 500 California associations. Their employees are anywhere from, just on average, 2 to 20 people. Some associations like the California Medical Association has probably got 100 plus employees, but just on average, say, an association with a 20, 30 employee base, got $2 or $3 million a year budget. What should they be looking at as far as, just in general, as far as a mix between Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, email, hard copy mail out? 10 years ago, hard copy mail out through the U.S. mail seemed to be pretty popular. Then it died. Now there's been a teeny bit of resurgence. So if you were sitting across from an association executive, somebody like that, and you would, what kind of a conversation would you be having with them about what they're doing to try to discover what their pain is, to try to give them, hey, here's some things that you should look at?
I think you have to look at that landscape. You have to look at overall, what are they working on today? What has worked? What hasn't worked? Be quick to get out of the things that haven't worked, or at least try an adjustment. But it is a mix for sure. And so, we're working on a campaign right now where it's a similar situation, and we're utilizing Instagram and Facebook primarily, but Google AdWords is the key driver, and Facebook and Instagram are more a little bit more on the awareness side, but they consistently are used to help push people back into a campaign, into a landing sequence that has some call to action, that has some return. And the return could be, the conversion could be getting them into a meeting. It could be getting them into a membership. In this case, it's an actual membership that people are signing up for. So we're doing a free trial of that membership. And so there has to be a what's in it for me, the WIFM model. There has to be something in there that it could be the service itself that's valuable enough. But in some cases, it's not quite enough because they don't know enough about it to have to educate, convince, and chase them. So let's give them a free perk, a 30-day free trial or something. But it's also in that conversation that's happening through the posts that are of other articles, that are of picture posts, messaging posts that all relate back to what the benefit is at the end of this sequence. So Instagram and Facebook are helping drive awareness, but with call to actions back into the campaign. AdWords are used as a clear push into the campaign, into the landing sequence that then helps people understand. And we use video with that, where it's combining all these elements, but then video is used to bring up the conversion rates on each of the landing sequence pages. And then finally, one of the newest, kind of coolest one that we've been working with that's working great is retargeting with pre-roll advertising. And the way that works is if somebody searches for, let's say they're looking for a gym membership, and they type in, fitness, gyms in my area or something, whatever the keyword is you're trying to track for, it follows them around. And it could be a week later and they go over to YouTube and they're just browsing on YouTube, looking at crazy cat videos or whatever. And you have a 5-second pre-roll ad that tells their pain, looking to get in shape, or have, here's your situation. You have this, check this out. We have the solution. Here's the solution. Here's what it looks like. Click here. And it's done in 5 seconds. It's 5 to 10 seconds. It's really fast, but it's so related to their search. Sometimes it's even using the exact keyword in that video, and they see it, a day later, a week later, whatever, in the video. And then they go, wow, that's exact. What a coincidence. and they click and then they're brought in, and then your video keeps them captured and engaged throughout that process, steps them through it. So I would say when you're looking at something, you have to look at the structure of it, the strategy of it. Who's the intended audience? What's the intended goal for that audience? And then how do you get in front of them in a meaningful way using which platforms to get them through that process?
Gotcha. So Dwight, I appreciate you coming on. Let me just ask you this. So if an association exec wanted to have you come in and talk to their people, give their people workshops on some of these marketing ideas, do you think you'd be open to throwing in some kind of an association presentation for the staff? Kind of put you on the spot here. It's like, because I'm kind of thinking, what you're talking about, every association would want to have a speaker like you speak at their annual conference on that. And just as important, and I think just as valuable, and they never seem to have a budget on this, is for somebody like you to do a workshop for the staff to help them. Have you done that, or is that something you do, like a pre or post convention program for the staff if they bring you in to do a keynote or a workshop? Is that part of your bailiwick?
Yeah, I have. That's something I've structured where, after the presentation, take it further into some actual training. So, and that's worked well. But yeah, we could probably work that for you, Ed. For you, anything.
Hey, so the people that watch my show, they're probably, great, Ed. Okay, where's the drum roll with his website and his phone number and all that stuff? There is no drum roll. There's a book. So where do they get your book? How do they get a hold of you? Give us all the skinny on the contact.
Okay, so you've done a lot for me, Ed. So I'm happy to help any of your people with even discuss what the opportunity might be. I'll help out because you have can't even put a dollar number on how much you've helped me in a lot of different ways. Both in my business, but also as the president of this volunteer organization. So, which has been a wonderful experience, but quite a challenge. So yeah, I'd be happy to do that. If somebody just wanted to schedule a call with me, I have a calendar link. It's just hcdco.com/call, CALL. And that's my direct calendar. You can just book it. Don't share that around. It's just for Ed's people here. But it's hcdco.com/call, like a phone call. My website, you can also get to that through hcdevelopment.com. Just if somebody is easier to spell out the full name of the company, they have that. Also, you can get to me through dwightholcomb.com, which also leads to all the ways you can schedule with me. And then the book site is leancmo.com. Leancmo.com also gets there, but they all are connected so you can get to any of the sites, but my booking thing pops up. And I will be happy to, have a discussion with anyone that wanted to consider putting something together that's part of your group. I would, see if we could do some kind of training for them or put something meaningful together for them.
Yeah. Give them 15 or 30 minutes free. After that, it's time to start paying. Hey, Dwight, this has been great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And for everybody watching, one last shot, grab his book. It doesn't even say on here how much it costs, but however much it costs. Good book. It's quick read. There's a lot of stuff that's really going to make you think and it's going to challenge how you think. So I advise that. And also I'd advise you to get a hold of Dwight. I've seen him present. I think that he'd do a good job for you at your annual meeting, your leadership meeting, your marketing meeting, and if you have staff training. So Dwight, thank you very much. It's been wonderful, and we're going to sign off with this episode of Raw and Unedited.